Okay, so very good morning, guys.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good
morning, sir.
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Good morning. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Uh, yes, Rahul.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm having some doubts from previous lectures. Can I ask them, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. In metadata, like when we say that, like suppose content is equals to bit device, right? So when we switch, when we are using mobile and when we switch from mobile version to desktop version, then does that like bit changes, like because the order of drastically changes, like it totally switches to desktop side.
So by default, uh, any web application is not responsive. You have to build your application responsive by writing some media queries in CSS. But in order to support media queries to work in any browser, we have to write that meta tag and width equal to device width. Okay, so in order to make any application responsive so that your application can be uh, displayed in any screen size. Let's say if you are having a mobile or any laptop or any tablet device, so you can view your application in any screen size, and your application will be able to structure itself according to the available area. So for that purpose, you have to go with media queries in CSS. By default, your web page is not going to be responsive.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. And sir, when we change like zoom in or zoom out, and then at that time, does the initial scale changes? And like suppose we are zooming in the page, then that time initial scale changes, right?
Exactly. When you are zooming the application, then it might uh, be a chance that your application will be misstructured. Okay. If
Sir,
suppose you
last
are,
question.
yes, yes.
Sir, you are saying something. Please continue.
Yeah. I was just saying that if you are zooming in any application, then it is going to mismanage your layout.
Sir, last question. Sir, in my metadata and microdata, like suppose I'm visiting Amazon's website and I want to buy a laptop from Apple, or suppose I want to buy a fast track watch. So fast track would go into metadata, but
Yes.
if I'm writing as digital watch for boys, then it would go into microdata, right?
You can write that search keyword in metadata also if you
Okay,
want.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but the like company name or brand name should be in a metadata, and the random things should go into my micro data as per conventions, right? But
Yeah.
the okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Someone is raising hand. I think
Yes.
Vijay. Yeah.
Yes, I am Vijay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So can't be done anything about like misstructuring of that content, web pages content like?
Just use media queries in your CSS to make your web page responsive. And if you are not able to write your own media queries in CSS, then you can go with the Bootstrap.
Okay.
Have you heard about Bootstrap?
Yeah, just heard, but not implemented yet.
Okay, so that's a very simple library to implement. Just have a look at that library Bootstrap. It's very easy to use, and you are going to make your application responsive. But still, if you are zooming in any application and if zoom level exceeds your available width, then your layout is going to be mismanaged.
After using Bootstrap also, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what is the like how we can fix that? All the things, how can be fixed?
By writing on own media queries. If suppose
Gotcha.
you are zooming in any application, let's say uh, I'm having this Zoom web page, right? So let's say
Yes.
I'm just zooming in. So you can see yourself
Mhm.
what kind of layout we are having. That why we try to zoom at this level. It's just a nonsense kind of thing. Why we zoom at this kind of level in
Okay, okay.
any application? Okay, got
Got
it?
it, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue further. So in last session, we are discussing about the JSON, and let's understand that what are the operations that we can perform on a JSON object. Okay, so let's create a folder. Okay, so we have seen earlier that a JSON is just a object. Okay, so in JSON object you can store your data in key value pairs. Let me create one script that. Okay, so what will be the format of JSON? We have to write curly braces, and inside these curly braces we are supposed to write some key value pair. Let's say I'm storing some data of the student. So I have one key that is ID, one key that is name, and let's say name is Arun, and one more key is there that is for marks, and one more key I'm having that will be for the phone numbers. Let's say for a single student, I'm having multiple phone numbers. So phone number will be the key, and its value will be an array. So you can put entire array in your JSON objects also. And not only the array, you can also put a nested JSON object also. For an example, let me break down it into multiple lines so that you can clearly view all of the key value pairs. Okay, and let's assign this a JSON object into a variable like where student equal to this. So actually, this is our JSON object, and the student is just a variable who is referring to this JSON object. So in this JSON object, we are having four keys: ID, name, marks, and phone. But one more key I want to store, that is address for any student. So one way of storing the address is just assign the entire string value of the address into this key. Like for example, B 167 and XYZ, whatever be the address. Okay, so we can assign that address in a single string value. But what if we want to have discrete values of the address? So what may be the discrete values for an address? Instead of this entire string value, What may be the discrete values for an address?
In codes
In code.
or like that one.
So one way of storing the address is just write your entire uh, address in a string. But instead of that string, I'm having one JSON object which is inside that out, outer JSON object. Okay, so you can see student is a JSON object, and inside that student object we are having one key, that is address, and that address key is holding one JSON object. Like this phone key is holding an array as value. So in the same way, this address key is having a JSON object as value. And I will store the discrete values of address. So are you guys understanding what I'm going to do in discrete values? What may be the meaning of discrete?
You are going to enter different values.
Exactly. I want to break down the complete address in a JSON format. Like for house number, I'm going to have one key. And for the street, I'm going to have one key. For the city, I'm going to have one separate key. And in the same way, for the state, I'm going to have one key. For the pin code, I'm going to have another key. So what will be the plus point of storing address in this way?
We can access it differently. Means one by one we can access.
Exactly. You can
Yes.
access the discrete
Easy
individual
accessible, yes.
element of your address. Like for example, if you are building any application like Swiggy and Zomato, so in those applications, we are about to process some discrete values of address. Like we have to fetch the data of cities only, or we have to fetch the data of localities only. Okay, so we have to operate the address discretely. So in that case, this way will be helpful. So for this student, I am just assigning an address with house number like B167. And let's say street, I'm just assigning any value like X, Y, Z, Nagar. And let's say city, I'm assigning as Delhi. And let's say I'm assigning state as Delhi. And for the pin code, I'm just assigning any random value. Okay, just don't take it seriously that this pin code may belong to Delhi. Okay, I'm just assigning a random. Okay, so this is our entire JSON object. So a JSON object can hold numbers as value. JSON objects can hold a string as value, can hold array, and can hold a nested JSON object. Okay, and you can go up to any level. Okay, so there may be a case where suppose a student is having multiple addresses. One is the temporary address and one is a permanent address. So in that case, you can also have address as an array, and inside that array, you are having multiple address objects. Okay, that may also be a case. Okay, so just for as of now, I'm having only a single student, and if
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
JSON needs an object. So in this second JSON, address is its object.
Yes, address key is itself an object.
So why haven't we made the relationship by an assignment? I mean, equal to sign instead of the dots, or it is
You
fine.
can go with that. You can. Okay. So in this example, I want to fetch the ID of the student. So in that case, student.id will be our preferred option. And if you want to get the name of that student, then student.name. Okay. So first of all, let me print this entire JSON object on the screen. So let's open this web.html. Okay. Now just go to the inspect and open the console. Yeah. So you can see on the console itself, we are having one object. Okay, we are having one JSON object, and that JSON object is containing these key value pairs. So you can see address is a key, and that address key is again having one object. Okay, and this is ID, marks, name, and this phone key is also having one array, right? So let's fetch the individual values from this JSON object. So what will be the way of fetching the individual keys? We have to write the name of our JSON object and then apply a dot and write the name of your key. Let's say I want to get the value of ID, then student.id. If we want to get the value of name, then student dot name. And if we want to get the marks, then student dot marks. And if you want to get the phone number, then what will be our choice? So student dot phone. Okay. So this student dot ID will give you an integer. This means a number. Student dot name will give you a string value. Then again student dot marks will give you a number. But if you are writing student dot phone, then this is going to give an array. And suppose in the same way I have written student dot phone, sorry, student dot address. So for this student dot address, we will get a JSON object itself. So let's refresh it. So you are able to see the entire object. And first of all, we have displayed the individual values by extracting them from the key. So this 101 belongs to student.id, Arun belongs to student.name, and 98 belongs to student.marks. And this array belongs to student.phone, and this is the entire address object. Now, what if I want to get the house number only? So what we have to do?
Student dot address dot house number.
House number.
Exactly. So because address is also an object, so in that case, we have to write this house number. And if we want to get the street value, then again we have to follow this syntax, that student dot address dot street. Okay, so in this way, you can also get the value of city. You can also get the value of state and pin code also. Okay, and there may also be a case where suppose inside a outer object, we are having one nested object, and that inner nested object may have some nested JSON object also. Okay, so you can encapsulate a JSON into another JSON. Okay, so that is also possible. And there is no such limitation that up to what level we can nest. So it depends. It totally depends on your structure of your data. Okay.
So for that, for calling that object nested in a nested object,
Yes.
we have to assign a reference also, like address we have assigned
Yes.
for calling,
you
yeah,
have-
calling
yes,
purpose.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. So likewise, I have
Sir,
done this. Yes.
when line number 19 execute, the first address is print in console.
Hmm.
Why it is, sir?
It is just a random browser
Means
thing.
first address is print and
Yeah.
okay.
It's just your browser thing that if you are having nested object in your JSON, it will show first. Okay, so just don't think that you are
Okay.
sorting the keys. Okay, it's not like that.
Sir, it is possible to print JSON on web page.
Yes. How we can print that document dot write?
So that a default thing, the 60 number address, what Reshma asked, that will not be printed on the web page, right?
Yes.
JSON
See,
will not be
what you want to print totally depends on the developer.
Hmm.
If you want to print the address value, then you can definitely print that onto the browser screen. But as of now, we are discussing about how to process a JSON object. If you want to display this data on the web page, then you can go with document.write, but that will not be a real case. If you want to display some JSON data in any real-time application, so we will be using some HTML tags. Like we are displaying some data in HTML table. Like if you want to display the student data on HTML table, then you can also do this. But we have to follow some sequence in order to write JavaScript data into your HTML. We have to be familiar with the DOM concept, document object model. Okay, so we
Okay.
will explore it later on. So we have to follow some sequence. Then if you want to print that data, then yes, you can definitely print that data using DOM manipulation. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now, uh, as of now, we are having only data of a single student. Now, what if we want to have data of multiple students? Then we have to go with array of JSON objects. So let me copy this JSON object into this array. Okay. So as of now, our array is holding only a single JSON object, right? So this single object is representing only one student. If I want to have another student, then in that case, I would uh, then in that case, I will have a second JSON object in that same array. Okay. And let's assign this array into a variable. And I'm naming this variable as students. Okay. I'm using just a plural form to have an array of JSON objects. So let's assign some different values, like one is Arun, and let's say one is Varun, and let's say marks is 57, and let's have some phone numbers like 8666, and one is, let's say, 811. Let me assign this. Yeah, okay. So as of now, I'm not changing the address value because it is not going to affect anything. Okay. So I'm just elaborating you that how we can have a JSON objects array. Okay. So you are able to see that we are having an array, and that array is having two elements. One is the first student object, and this is the second student object. Okay, so this is array of JSON objects. So if you are having such similar objects, let's say if you are having lots of these similar objects, so in that case, we have to go with this array of objects. So in the same way, you can store any number of students as much you want. Okay, it will be the same. Now, let's display this entire array on the console. So console.log, I am just logging this array as students. So this is an array. It will be having two elements inside it. So you can see first and second elements are itself an JSON object. Okay. So let's expand this array, and you can see at index number 0, you are having first object, and at index number 1, you are having the second object. Okay. So is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So now what if we want to get the data of first student only? So in that case, we have to write index number
Students
0.
of 0.
Okay, so students of 0 will give us the first object. And what if we want to get the second student? So in that case, students of 1 will be our choice. And if we want to count that how many students we are having, so in that case, what we can do?
Student.length.
Yes, just find out the length of your array. So students dot length would be our choice. So now let's refresh it. Okay. So you are able to see that students of 0 has given us this JSON object, which is having ID as 101, and the students of 1 has given this kind of object. Okay. And this 2 belongs to the length of this students array. Now, what if we want to get the name of the first student? Then what we will do?
Students
Student.
dot
Students
name, I think.
Student
0 dot
0 dot
Student 0 dot
name.
name. Yes.
Students
Index dot 0.
0 dot name. Okay. So just try to answer me if I'm writing this as students.id. Is it possible?
No.
No,
No,
it is
because
not a
student is an
member of.
array. Yes.
Yes, yes.
So first of all, we have to go onto the individual object and then we will be able to get its key, right? So let's do one thing. I want to get the data of all the students one by one. So this means I want to print all the data of all the students one by one. So in that case, we can iterate over this array. So this means we can write one for loop that will start from index number 0 and up to the last index. Okay, so I'm going to write one for loop and I will be initialized by 0 and I should be less than students dot length and I plus plus. And in this array, so in this loop, if you want to get the data of a single student, then in that case, we have to write the students of I. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
We can write students of I. So when I is 0, so then it will print students of 0. So by printing students of 0, we are displaying the entire JSON object for that particular student. But if you want to get ID of that student, then students of I dot ID. And suppose if you want to get the name of that student, then student of I dot name. And let's say if you want to get the phone numbers or the marks value, then students of I dot marks. And in this same way, you can also print the phone number and you can also display the address value. So now let's say if we want to get the house number only for any student. So what we need to write here?
Student I dot
Student of 0 dot address dot house number.
Exactly. So we have to write students of I dot address dot house number. Okay. So as of now, we have to be familiar that how we are going to process a JSON objects, how we can get the values from a JSON object. And later on, we will be able to print this data onto our web page also. Okay. Okay. So you can see we are having the data of first student and we are having the data of second student. Okay. So is it okay to everyone?
yes sir.
Okay. So now there is a task for you. Earlier we have discussed one logic to find out the maximum value from an array. So now from this student's array, you have to find out the student with maximum marks. Okay, so I would like you guys to just write a logic to find out the maximum marks student. So this means we have to find out the topper student with the maximum marks. You have to use that same logic that in that array we have considered the first element as maximum and we have compared that maximum with rest of the elements. Okay, so in the same way, you have to follow that same logic in order to find out the student with maximum marks. So all of you understood what you need to do?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Vijay?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, can you please show that how to print this array on a web page? Because yesterday I tried it, but the output is coming like only in brackets object.
I have earlier told you if you want to print any JavaScript data onto your HTML, you have to go with this DOM thing, document object model. As of now, are you familiar with DOM?
No, sir.
Okay, we have to follow some sequence. We will see this how to print the JavaScript data. Any if you are having data, any variable in any array or in any JSON object, you can display that onto your browser web page also. Okay, but in order to do that, we have to use this DOM manipulation concept. Okay, we will see it in this class only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now let's move further. Uh, Now let's move on to our next concept. that is the callback functions. So let me open this notes.txt file. Okay. So just listen about this concept very carefully, because I have seen many students, okay, who are just not paying attention when I'm discussing about the callback function in my real-time experience. Okay, and when I'm done with this callback, they are just like what I have said, like, okay. So just pay attention to this callback function, because there might be a case where you find this concept a little bit confusing or a little bit weird. Okay, but just pay attention. Okay, and you are going to learn this concept, and this is a real JavaScript. So because till now we are just only exploring some concepts about array, if else, loops kind of thing, functions kind of thing. So these are all the concepts which you have seen earlier in C programming or in C++ or in Java programming. Okay, so this is the real JavaScript, like callback functions and async await mechanism, or the promises concept, or the closures concept. Okay, so this is the real JavaScript for you. Okay, so just listen it carefully what I'm trying to say about a callback function. Okay, so what exactly is a callback function? So before starting this callback function, we have to understand the fact that in JavaScript everything is an object. Everything, your string is an object, your number is an object, even your array for JavaScript is an object. If you are having any JSON, then JSON is also an object. So in terms of JavaScript, everything is an object. Okay, so if you are having any, let's say HTML element also, then for the JavaScript, that is also an object. So for JavaScript, everything is an object. Okay, whatever you are having is an object. Your HTML elements are also your HTML element is also going to be an object. Array is also object, and your JSON is also an object. So in that same way, your function is also an object. Yes, in JavaScript, a function is also an object. First of all, try to understand this point, because this is something new which you are going to see in JavaScript. Because as usual, you are saying a function, you are defining a function, and that function may have some arguments, and you may return something from that function. And at some later point of time, you are just calling that function. Okay, but in JavaScript, functions are not limited only to this extent. So for JavaScript, if everything is an object, then function is also an object. Let me write that point. For JavaScript, a function is also an object. So just answer this question. Can we assign a JSON object into a variable? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
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 sir.
can do.
yes, we can assign an array into a variable also. Why? Because these all the things are objects. So can we assign a function into a variable?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, we can assign a function into a variable. Let me clear you this. Let's create a file. I'm naming it as callbacks.html. So I'm creating one script tag, and inside that script, I'm having one function. So that function is show, and inside this show function, I'm just logging one statement, that is just console.log hello world. Okay, so this is a very basic function which I'm having. Okay, so I haven't called this function yet. Okay, I'm just writing the name of this function, and I'm assigning the show into a variable that is obj. Can we do this? I haven't called this function. Why I'm saying this? I haven't called this function.
Only
What?
show.
Rounded bracket
show.
means
Agree.
not
I'm
brackets.
not
Yes.
writing any parenthesis. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying that I have not called this function yet. I haven't called this function. I have just assigned the reference of this function into a variable whose name is obj. Okay. So in JavaScript, you can definitely do this thing. Now, what will be the significance of doing this? We will understand it later on also. We have to follow some sequence. Okay. So first of all, you have to understand that in JavaScript, you can do these things also. Okay, so I have assigned the entire function into a variable that is obj, and now I can call the above function with the help of obj, because if show is a function, then I have assigned the show into obj, then obj itself will become a function. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Obviously. Okay, so I have assigned this show into the obj and I have called that above function with the help of obj. Okay, so you people might think that if we are having this show function, then we are supposed to call this show function like this directly. Why we are assigning it into obj? I will come to that point. Yes, I will definitely come to that point, that why I'm assigning this function into a variable. So, but first of all, we have to become familiar with this fact that yes, in JavaScript, we can assign any function into a variable. And if you are assigning that function reference into a variable, so that variable will become a function also. And in JavaScript, a function is also an object. So now let's refresh it. So the file name is what, callbacks.html. Okay, so you can see you are able to see this output, that is hello world. Okay, so in JavaScript, this is very much possible. So let me write this inside notes.txt. Yes, so for JavaScript, everything is an object. So we can assign any function to object. And we can do one more thing. Let's say I'm having one function. Okay, and inside this function, let's say I'm having the name of this function as greet, and I'm just printing one message that is, for example, good morning. Okay, so this is our simple function that is greet. And when you are defining any function, you can pass some arguments also. Okay, you can define some arguments, like inside the show function, I'm having one argument and I'm naming that argument as arg. Okay, and just for this demonstration purpose, I'm just displaying this value that is arg. So this is a very basic kind of function whose name is show, and this function is accepting one argument, and the name of argument which I have written is arg, and whatever be the argument inside that function, we are displaying its value. So all of you understood this function, what exactly this function is doing? It is just taking an argument and displaying that argument.
So in JavaScript, function don't have any return type.
Yes. Why? JavaScript doesn't have data type in the hands of developer.
Okay.
Okay. So whenever you are defining any function, so you don't have to write any return type. And whenever you are declaring some arguments, you are not supposed to write this as integer arg or float or string arg. You just have to name your argument. So the name of my argument is arg, or you can take any name for your argument. So all of you understood what this function is doing?
And default value is 0, right?
No. How we can say this arg will be having a 0?
Yes.
Is there any
Not,
data type for it?
No, just I was thinking like that.
If you are not assigning any value, then it will be what?
Undefined.
Undefined.
Defined, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
So the role of this function is very simple. For this time being, I'm just removing this Greek. We are having only this show function, which is taking one argument, and after printing the hello world, it is printing that argument only. Now, when I will call this function, I have to pass some argument. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have to pass some argument. Let's say if
Sir,
I have passed 7. Yes,
undefined or not defined, sir?
undefined, because argument is declared here. Argument is there, but if value is not initialized, then it will become undefined.
But sir, hoisting is not performing, so argument is not declared na yet.
Who is saying that hosting is not being performed?
We didn't use any keywords there later
Keywords.
and
See, this is an argument. Arguments are declared like this only. Okay, so hosting will be done for this entire function, not only for this argument. Okay,
Sir, instead of that argument, we should write something variable like A, there A and below also A. Then hosting is done or not?
yes, hosting is done.
But sir, hosting is have to any where or late na any of them three of them
But
should be there.
there is a difference between that thing. Na? This is a argument. This is an argument of your function. And you don't have to write any keyword like where, let, or const for the argument. They are meant to be local variable. Arguments are meant to be local variable, yes or no, or they mean to be a block scoped variable. Is there such concept?
Suppose
Local
sir,
variable.
suppose if you use the show method as a parameter list, and inside that method we declare the A. That time
yes,
what is the output?
not defined.
If you are having this variable a and if you
No,
are
no, sir.
printing what,
Don't use where.
then what is this? This is just a nonsense kind of thing. A and then semicolon. What is this?
No,
If you
sir.
are declaring a variable, only if you are declaring variable, you have to write this where, let, or const. If you are assigning a value, then this is okay. If you are assigning, then this will become a global variable. But if you only want to declare a variable, then what is this? Only a. Is it making any
Sir,
sense?
sir, as we are not defining any data type, right? Where, late, or const, then on what basis the hosting is done there at that time?
See, first of all, the statement I have written, is it correct or not?
No, not
No,
here.
it is not No, it's not correct.
Yes.
If we write, sir, console dot log dot a, and below that line, if we write a is equal to 10, right? Then there, on the what basis they're hosting everything?
Yeah. So hosting will be done for the variables which are inside the functions or which are outside the function. Hosting will be performed only for those variables. Let's say I have done like this console log a, then just below it, I have declared a is equal to 10. So in this case,
Not
your
defined.
JavaScript engine will give an error like a is not defined.
Defined.
Why such a kind of thing? Because you haven't applied this where, and this variable is initialized or declared where inside this function, right? This is not an argument. Is it an argument?
No.
No. Okay, so this will look for the where, let, or const keyword. But what I'm trying to say is whenever you are having an argument, so can you decide your argument to make it as a global variable or to make it as a block scoped variable? What arguments are meant for?
Local user
Belongs to that
inside
method.
This
that.
is understood by default. Na? If you are having an
yes.
argument, that is going to be a local variable only. Okay, so hosting will be done for this entire function, not only for this argument.
But sir, in line number 16, instead of 7, if I pass there B and
B means what?
B
B as a string or as a variable?
variable. And in line number 15, I declare B is equal to 10.
Yes.
Then it is also not defined
Why it is not defined?
because we don't have any variable declaration type.
Then what is
the
this?
function?
Oh, 10
What
gets
is this?
assigned to.
Then what is line number 15?
So we are initializing this B, but we didn't mention.
No, in line number
Pass that,
13, it
no?
will print 10.
Just erase this function. We are not having this function. What will be the output? Is
10.
there any error?
10.
No error.
10.
Why in this case there is no error? And when we are having function, then there will be an error.
Sorry.
How this is?
Sir,
If you have declared
sir,
this variable, yes,
sir, not defined means hosting is not running, right?
yes, exactly,
Okay, right. And undefined means hosting is running but not initializing.
exactly.
Okay, right. Okay, got it.
Just a second.
Sir, can JS,
Yes, what?
sir, can JS engine differentiate between parentheses or argument or the variables?
Yes, definitely. Your interpreter is going to read your source code. They are able to differentiate that if you are having argument, then definitely this is a local variable. You can't make it as global or a block scoped variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
1 second, 1 second.
सर इतनी मेहनत से कॉल बैक पढ़ा रहे थे पूरा इन्होंने उड़ा दिया.
Okay. Okay, so in this example, we are having a show function. So just answer it. Is there any argument in show?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And what we are doing with that argument?
Just
We
printing
are
it, sir.
printing it.
Yes.
Line number 13.
Exactly. Just we are printing it. We are doing nothing fancy operation with that. Okay, so whenever I have to call this function, I need to pass one argument. So let's say this time I have passed this 7. So whenever we call a function, the argument will be assigned to this variable a. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So the value of a will become 7, and it will print first of all hello world, then after it will print this 7. So output will be hello world and then 7. So you can see first of all output is hello world, and then after it we are having the value 7. Okay. Now what will happen if I have passed a string value like by, what will happen? Is it possible? Can we do this thing?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
do.
possible.
Yes, sir.
Because there is no such
Yes.
kind of static typing in JavaScript. This variable is having a type. You can see this belongs to any
Any.
data type, right? This is not a specific number or a string or a boolean. So if I have passed this by, then this a will receive that string value and it will print that string value only. Okay, so you can see first of all it has printed this 7, then later on it has printed this by. So all of you understood this mechanism, what exactly is happening?
Yes.
So as of now, what value we are passing in argument? We have passed a integer or a number. We have passed a string value. In the same way, we can pass a Boolean value also. In that way, you can also pass some array. You can also pass your JSON object. But now what I will do, just try to look at the screen what I'm actually doing. I'm just defining one function which is greet, and inside the definition of this greet function, I'm just displaying one function message that is good morning. Okay, so this time when I'm calling this show function, just see it carefully what I'm doing. Once when I have called this show function, I have passed a number in the argument. Then again, I have passed the string value as an argument, but this time I'm passing this function as an argument. What I have done, I have passed this entire function in the argument. So this greet will be assigned to which argument?
A.
Exactly. This greet will be assigned to this argument that is A, and this function is going to print your greet function. Okay, we are not calling that function. We are just printing the argument value. So now let's see what will be the output. Okay, so you can see first time the argument is 7, second time the argument was by, and the third time the argument is itself a function. Then you are able to see that we have passed the entire function in the argument. So this is possible in JavaScript, that we can pass arguments, that we can pass a function in the argument. Okay, so in JS, we can pass a function in argument of some another function, of some another function. So in JavaScript, we can pass a function in argument of the another function. Okay, and the function which we are passing in the argument. So which function we are passing in the argument?
Great.
Greet. So this greet function will be referred as callback function. So what exactly is a callback function? A function that is passed inside the argument of some another function. That is a callback. So what exactly is a callback function? A function that is passed inside, or we can say that is passed as argument of a function. Okay, so that is a callback function for you. So in our example, we are having this greet function as a callback function. So now if we are having this greet as a callback, and if our argument A is receiving that function, then we can call this callback function with the help of such kind of syntax. So remember that earlier example, when we are having this function show, I have assigned this show into the obj, and we are calling this obj with the help of this parenthesis. So in the same way, if I am passing this greet and that greet is being assigned into the A, then A will also become a function. then I can definitely call that function with the help of this syntax. Okay, so instead of printing the callback function, I am calling the callback function. Okay, so first of all, we are just understanding that what we can do in JavaScript. Then we will also understand it that why we are doing this kind of thing. Okay, in order to support, we are having two processes in JavaScript. One is synchronous and another is asynchronous. We will discuss them one by one. Okay, so we are understanding that in JavaScript, yes, we can do such kind of things. You can pass a function as an argument. So that function which is passed as argument is referred as a callback function. So this greet is a callback which is received by this argument A, and inside this function we are displaying hello world, and through this argument we are calling this greet. So can you guess the output?
Good morning.
First of all, good
Hello
morning will
world.
be printed or hello world?
Hello world.
Hello
Hello
world.
world.
Hello
Yes,
world.
first
Hello
it
world.
will print hello
Hello
world,
world.
then
Hello
after
world.
it
Good
will
morning.
print good morning.
So can you explain line number 11 to 19 again, please? Hello.
Yes, what you are able to see on your screen, just tell me.
So there's a function called show,
Yes,
which an parameter is there a.
yes,
I'm just and there is another function known as greet. So we are calling greet through show.
exactly. We are calling this greet through the show function. You might wonder that we can call like this, then why we have passed. So I have said this already that we, first of all, we have to understand that what we can do in JavaScript. JavaScript is going to support this concept called back. Then they people are having a logic behind this. Okay. So first of all, we have to become familiar with this syntax, that what exactly we can do with the help of callback. So what I'm referring this greet function as a callback. So when I'm calling this show function, I have passed this greet inside the argument, and we are referring this greet as a callback. So who is receiving this greet function?
Show
A.
function.
Show function.
Show.
Yes,
Parameter A.
Show function.
the show is receiving this greet in the name of this A argument. Yes or no?
Yes.
And whatever be the callback function passed inside that show, we are just calling this. Let's do one more thing. I'm just defining one more function, and I'm naming that function as, for example, sum. Okay, and this sum function is just calculating sum of two variables. Let's say x is 7, and let's say y is 5, and this sum function is just logging the value of x and y. Now again, I'm calling this show function, and I have passed sum inside this show. Now, who is the callback in line number 27?
Callback is show.
Show.
Show is a
No,
callback.
callback is sum.
Yes, callback
Sum.
is sum. The function which is passed in the argument, that would be a callback. So in the above line, line number 26, greet is a callback, and in line number 27, sum is a callback. And
Okay.
when we are calling this show, the sum will be assigned to this variable A, and through this variable A, we are calling that.
We can do a show, like we can pass parameter A comma B also, and
In which
assigning two
function?
functions in show function.
Yes, you can
Assigning two
have,
functions, yeah,
yes,
together.
yes, you can also do that thing. First of all, let me copy this thing to notes.txt. Okay. Okay, so let me do one thing. I'm just assigning two arguments. One is A and one is B. And I have called this A function and the B function. Now, when we are calling this show, we can pass two arguments, like one is greet and one is sum. So this greet will be assigned to which argument?
A.
A, and the sum is assigned to B. So whenever we are calling this A function, A callback, so this is calling greet function, and when we are calling this B, so this is calling the sum function. Okay, so you can see the result is hello world, then A function is being called, and then B function is being called. So all of you understood this mechanism?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes. Any doubt?
when we don't write that line, yes, sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah.
Can you scroll up?
Yes.
When we don't write line number 13 and 14, that time the whole function greet and sum will return in console.
If you are not calling and if you're not referring or not displaying anything, then your show function is only going to print hello world. Then the argument will have their value as function, but they are nothing to do with it. But if you are logging them on the console, like console log A and console log B, then yes, this console log A will print the greet function, and this console log B will print here the sum function. Let me refresh it. Okay. So you can see the argument A is containing that greet function, and argument B is containing your sum function. And if you haven't referred this A and B, then there is no purpose of passing the argument. Okay, if you're not using them, then why you are passing? But still, if you are running this program, then what will happen to A and B? Nothing will happen. It will just print the message hello world only. You can see output is only hello world. It's upon you if you want to use these arguments or not. Okay,
Right.
so is it clear?
And sir,
Yes, proceed.
okay. You had written something like calling for the function A and B. What is meaning of that then? Means only we are calling the console.log.
Exactly. This statement is doing nothing, just it is printing the value of argument. If that argument is number, it will print that number. If that argument is function, then it will print that function. So I am just uh, telling you that in JavaScript, we can pass an entire function into the argument of some another function. But why we are doing such kind of thing, we will see it later on. It's just JavaScript things. That's why I have told you at the beginning that I have seen in my entire life in this training domain that beginners might find it a bit weird or bit confusing to work with this callback function. But this is how things are going to work in JavaScript. You have to be familiar with these concepts. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in greet function, can we pass sum as a callback function? And in show
Yes,
function,
definitely.
and,
Definitely.
and in show function, can we call greet function as a callback?
Yes. Yes. Let me show you this. Let's say if this show is receiving only a single argument. Okay, the show is receiving only a single argument, and this greet will receive an argument. Let's say I'm having that greet, I'm having that argument as arg. Okay, now in this greet function, I'm calling this arg like this. Okay, so by just reading this code, we are having two functions. One is show and one is greet. Show is having an argument that is A, and greet is having an argument that is arg. Now what? I have one calling of the show function, and inside this show, what I have passed the greet. So I have passed this greet. So greet will be assigned to what? A or arg?
A.
Yes. Greet will be assigned in in this argument A, and we are calling that A function. And now inside this A, I have passed this sum. Understood what I have done here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So what will be the sequence of output? First of all, which function has been called?
Greet function.
Show.
First show, then greet.
No,
then
show.
So first of all,
show.
show is being called.
Show.
So
Yes.
it will print hello world. Then after printing hello world, it will call this A. This means which function will be
No.
called? Greet. Then control will go into this greet, and sum will be passed to ARG. And first of all, it will print good morning. Then after through ARG, our sum function will be executed. Okay, so you can see hello world, good morning, and sum is 12. Is it clear?
Yes.
So we are just messing with readability.
Yes, what?
We are messing with the readability.
Yes, exactly. That's why in JavaScript, a new concept has been introduced. We will see it later, that is promises. Have you heard about this concept?
Heard about in outside world.
No, sir.
So this is
Promises
just
are
an
made to be
inspiration from
broken.
real life only.
Real life example.
Yes. The promise
It's just
concept
like
is
a
totally based
hello sir.
on real life. Yes.
It's just
वचन ही
like
है
a
मेरा
recursion.
शासन. वचन ही है मेरा शासन.
Recursion.
This is not recursion.
Just like
We are not calling the same function inside itself. Are you able to see that we are having this show function, and I haven't called show inside this show? Yes or no?
no.
So if we are not calling that function into the same function, then why we are saying it as recursion? It is not recursion. Recursion will be when you are calling a function inside itself. Okay, if you are calling show inside show, then it will become recursion. If you are calling greet inside greet, then it will be a recursion. Let's say if you are passing show inside show, then it will become recursion. Yes or no?
Yes sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let me copy this thing. So for any beginner, these things might look a little bit confusing or little bit weird, that what exactly this is happening, but this is just a normal thing for any JavaScript developer. So when you will give time to such kind of things, you will practice more, then you will be able to understand these things. So for any JavaScript developer, these are just normal things. Okay. Okay, so yes.
Sir, in greet function, it taking one argument, but we have not passing that some function in greet.
How we are passing that some function indirectly? Because you can see this greet has been passed inside the show. So this greet will be received by this variable A, and from this variable A, we are calling the greet. When we are calling this A function, then which function will be called? Greet or sum? Greet will be called, and inside that greet, I have passed this sum. Okay, so that's how we have passed the sum to this ARG.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yes. In this case,
Can you
sum as a callback
please
function.
show the output again?
Yeah, sure. Yes, this is the output. Hello world, good morning, and 12.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's understand one another fact, that let me first of all have only two functions for the sake of simplicity. and I'm not passing this show function into the argument as of now. Okay, so things are very simple now. We are having two functions, one is show and one is greet. So in this example, who is the callback? Yes.
Sir, if we in show line number 23, before after a greet, we can give a two round brackets. Then what happened?
Say if you are writing the round brackets in the show argument, then you are not passing the function reference. You are calling this greet, and whatever be the value returned from the greet will be passed inside the show. Let's say I have returned a value that is 7. So when you have applied the parenthesis, so you are passing the function or the value returned by the function.
Okay, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now in this example, who is a callback function, greet or show?
Great.
Great.
Great. So
Yes.
yes, exactly. So if you are having any function which needs to be passed inside the argument, then you can also do one thing, which is just don't give any name to your function. Okay, what I'm trying to say is when we are having a function that needs to be passed in the argument only. Okay, when you are having any function that is meant to be passed inside the argument only. Okay, we are not having such requirement that we can use that function later on. We just have to pass that function into the argument only. Okay, for example, I'm having this greet function. Okay, so now just consider a scenario where I don't want to call this greet function independently. Okay, I don't want such kind of mechanism that at some later point of time I'm going to call this greet. Okay, I'm not supposed to do that. My duty is, so my scenario is that I have to pass this greet function only inside the argument. Okay, so in JavaScript, if there is a scenario that whenever you are having a function that always needs to be passed inside the argument, then there is no sense of giving name to that function. Okay, when we are having a function that needs to be passed in the argument only, so this means we are not about to call that function independently. What I'm trying to say by this point, which I'm writing in bracket, is that if we are having that greet function that needs to be passed only inside that show function, and we are not about to call this greet function like this independently. Okay, I'm referring to this scenario. So in this scenario, we are already clear that we are not about to call this greet function independently. Let me write this thing. Okay, independently like this. We are not about to call this function. So there is no sense of giving the name to that function. So in JavaScript, you can also have such kind of functions who are having no name. Okay, so in JS, we can have functions without the name. Okay, in JavaScript, we can have functions without the name, and we are going to refer them as anonymous function. Okay, so in JavaScript, we can have functions without name, and these functions are known as anonymous function. Okay, and these functions are known as anonymous functions. Okay, so try to understand the point as it is. Try to accept the things that we are having one function, and I'm not about to call this function independently. So I want this function only to be a callback. So what is a callback? A function that is passed inside the argument. So I want this greet function to be an anonymous function. In order to make this function anonymous, just erase the name of that function. Okay, so you can see I haven't given the name of this function. I have just written the function keyword, and all the syntax is the same. But instead of writing the function name, I have written the function keyword only. Okay, and you can pass this entire function in the argument like this. Okay, if you are having any callback function which you are supposed to pass in the argument of some another function only, then there is no sense of giving its name. Then you can go with anonymous function, and you can pass that anonymous function in the argument. Okay, so now this anonymous function is being passed inside the argument, and again this a will receive this callback function. So all of you understood this point?
Okay. Sir, I have a doubt regarding that.
Yes.
How will we be able to call multiple functions then? If we are having multiple functions, multiple anonymous function.
Yes.
Then how will we be able to call them?
Sequence. If you are having anonymous function, then you are not supposed to have an anonymous function directly like any function. You have to pass that anonymous function into the argument only. So what is the purpose of having these anonymous functions? So anonymous functions are only meant to be passed in the argument. Okay, so let me write this point. Anonymous functions are meant to be passed in the argument. Okay, so in my example, earlier we are having that greet function. Okay, earlier we are having that greet function, and we are passing the name of that greet. This means what I'm actually doing. Let's say I'm having one variable b is equal to 8, and I'm calling this show function, and instead of passing this value 8, I'm passing this variable b. Okay, so are you understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I'm having this variable b whose value is 8, if I want to pass 8 inside the argument, then instead of writing this 8, I have passed this variable b. So in the same way, this function is also having a name. So instead of writing this entire function in the argument, I have referred the name of this function. Just in the same way, I have written the variable b. Now, can we pass the hard-coded value 8 inside the function? Is it possible or not?
It is possible.
Yes, sir. It is
Yes,
possible.
it is possible. So
Nothing to do
again,
with
this
line number
is
21.
yes, exactly. So this is also possible in the case of functions also. Okay, if you are having any function that needs to be passed inside the argument, then you are having one option that you can have an anonymous function. There is no sense of giving name to it. Then just pass this entire function in the argument. Result is going to be the same. Okay, but I have changed the structure of my program. So instead of giving a name to a function and passing that name into the argument, what I have done is I have removed the name. I haven't given the name. So in that case, this function will become an anonymous, and I have passed this entire function into the argument. Okay, so this entire anonymous function will be received by this argument a, and through this argument a, we are simply calling this a function, which is this anonymous function. Is it clear?
if you want to pass more than one anonymous function,
Yes.
how will you pass it?
Let's say
That
if
only.
you are having two functions with their name. So in that case, what we are doing? Inside show, we have written greet, comma, sum. So in that same way, instead of greet, I have written this anonymous function. Then for the second argument, you can pass another anonymous function.
Just with comma.
Yes, we have to pass arguments with comma separated. Yes or no? Suppose you are having some function, and if you want to pass two arguments, then how we can pass 3, 4?
Yes.
Is it so?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in the same way, if you want to pass anonymous function, so instead of 3, you can pass first anonymous function. Instead of 4, you can pass the second anonymous function. So things
but-
are going to work like this. Yes.
Okay. But how the show method is reading, like first, if the two anonymous functions are declared like before line number 17, and after that, if we are passing these all two functions inside
Do
the
you
show
know
method.
basics about the methods or functions?
Yes,
If you are having function like sum and you have two arguments like a comma b, and let's say I'm returning this sum of a plus b. Now I'm calling this sum function, and this sum function, inside this calling, I have passed 3 and 4. How you are going to know that 3 is being assigned to a only?
Serial wise.
Exactly. The sequence is going to matter for the arguments. The first argument will be assigned the first, and the second will be assigned onto the second argument. So in the same way, if you are having two callback function in the calling, then we have to take two arguments. So this first anonymous function, this first callback will be assigned to which argument?
A.
Yes, it will be assigned to A, and the second anonymous will be assigned to B. Is it clear?
Sir, can we write that greet after that function in the 17th line?
Means you are asking like this?
Yes, because
Yes,
sir,
yes, you
as
can write, but there is no sense of writing such kind of thing because this function will become a local function.
sir, but we are assigning that this grid function, total grid function to the A, right? And then also we are at the 13th line, we are calling that function. That I think there is no need to that round brackets in that 13th line because we are not just assigning the name of that
So
grid.
do you mean that we have to just write this kind of thing?
Yes.
Why?
Because sir, as we are assigning total full function to the.
Yeah. Okay. Just consider one previous example what I have done previously in this. Yeah. We are having this show. So this show is being assigned to which variable?
OBJ.
OBJ variable. And if you want to call that function, so are we going to write such kind of syntax like only OBJ?
But sir, here we only assign that show, not show round brackets here.
Yes, we have assigned this show. So this means what? We are assigning a complete function into that OBJ. And this OBJ will also become a function. So if you want to call that function, you have to write parenthesis. So in this similar way, you are not calling this greet. You are passing the entire greet. Yes or no?
Okay.
We're passing the entire grid to A, and you have to call this function like this only. Okay. And if you are writing this name of the function, then this is not recommended. Why? Because this function has become a a local function only. So there is no sense of giving a name to such kind of function which you are defining inside the argument.
Sir,
Yes.
if you want to pass arguments to the anonymous function, then how can we give values to that arguments?
Yeah. Let me show you. Okay, so we are having this anonymous function. Let's say this anonymous function is receiving some data. Like I have one argument which I named as data, and I'm logging on the console the value of that data argument. And now, since this anonymous function is being assigned into the argument A, and through this A we are calling that same anonymous function. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So when you are
Yes.
calling this A, you can pass that argument. So for example, I'm passing the value 7. So the 7 will be assigned to the data and it will print good morning and the data will be 7. Let's refresh it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me write this into the notes file. Okay. Okay, so let's have a short break and we will resume post break. Then we will see some more points about this callback functions.
Sir,
Okay.
a little question.
Yes. What?
That 7, if you want to pass that value after 21 line, then how can we do that?
Can you please repeat your question?
If we pass that value and that 7 value means argument value of anonymous function after 21 line.
Okay, if you want to pass the argument value of data in line number 21.
Yes, yes.
It's not possible because argument will be passed whenever we are calling that function. And where we are calling this anonymous function? Where we are calling this anonymous?
Inside the show function.
Yes, inside the show function at line number 13. So only in that line we can pass the argument. Okay, when you are having any anonymous function passed inside any function, then that anonymous function will be called inside the container function only. You can't call it whenever you want in the entire program because it has become a local function.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. So we will resume after a short break of 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm stopping my screen sharing. Okay, so welcome back after the break. Let me share my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
Hello.
yes.
Sir, before start to new topic, can you just overview for the callback? Many of student don't get, means many of student have confusion in it.
I
Yes,
have
sir.
not
Yes, please.
ended this topic yet. I'm going to resume that same also. Okay, so what we
Thank you,
have
sir.
studied about this callback. So what you people are having idea about this callback? What is the callback?
Passing the function to another function as a parameter.
That's it. That's the only concept of callback. We have just seen that what is a callback. Why we need callback, we haven't seen this. Okay, we will discuss it later on. But as of now, we have seen that what is a callback. So callback is just a function which is passed inside the argument. And if there uh, and if there is a function which needs to be passed always inside the argument, then there is no sense of giving a name to that function. So we can make that function as anonymous function, and you can pass that complete entire function into the argument. Okay, so what I have done in this example, before this, I have defined one separate function, that is greet, and I am passing the name of that function into the show argument. But instead of doing that, I have defined that greet as anonymous, and I have passed this function entirely inside the argument. So this selected thing is an anonymous function which I'm passing inside the argument of show. And who is receiving this function? The variable a. And inside this function show, first of all we are displaying the result hello world, and after it we are calling it using a variable. That is our anonymous function. So is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, sir is going to start the new topic. So whoever having doubt can ask, because after this point we will not be able to get all these things.
Yes, you can ask. Yes. Are you having any doubt as of now?
Sir, all that examples we have seen for this, please give the overview of that.
ब्रेक के बाद ऐसा क्या हुआ तुम लोगों के साथ? सबको चक्कर आ गए क्या?
सर एक्चुअली प्रॉब्लम ये हो रहा है कि मतलब some of student changing have demand to change code like this and this, so some of student getting confused in it. They don't get the basic format or basic meaning of the callback, so they want to just they just want to basic overview of all the callback function.
So do you want me to repeat all the things?
Sir, in
No,
short,
sir. In short, just.
Okay.
in
That's
the
the
short,
gist of it. Yeah, gist
Okay.
of it. Yes.
Sir, you can post the code in the chat box also. We can like see that at the same time.
This will going to take lot much time. We are not having that amount of time. Already we are running far away from the schedule. Okay, behind the schedule we are already running late. Is there any member from CDAC staff? Surya ma'am, are you there?
Yes, sir. I am here, Revati.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, one problem which I'm facing, that all the students are having lots of doubts. So because of that, number of days might increase. Okay, that may be a case.
Okay, I will
Already
inform
we are
this.
having the shortage in number of days, and if that much amount of doubts are coming for any topic, then we have to increase a few number of days.
This issue I will tell to Surja ma'am.
Yeah,
Ma'am will
sure.
decide.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so what we have studied about this callback function. So basically, what we have seen about a callback, first of all, in JavaScript, everything is an object. So a function is also an object, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Function is also an object, so we can assign that function into a variable, and you can call that function using a variable. Okay, and as of now, we can pass a number into the argument, we can pass a string into the argument, or we can pass boolean into the argument. So in that same way, what we can pass into the argument, a function, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So what is a callback function? Just read a point.
A function that is passed as argument of a function.
Exactly. So we are having this example, like we are having this function show, we are having this function greet, and inside this show, which function I have passed in argument? So who is callback?
Greet.
Yes, greet is a callback. So this greet will be assigned to which variable?
A.
Yes. So a will become what? A number, a string, or a function?
Function.
Function.
Yes. So we have called this function like it. And again, I have called this show function. Now I have passed this sum. So now in this function call, who is callback?
Sum is called
Sum
back.
is called.
Sum is callback.
And again, sum will be assigned to which variable?
A.
A.
And this function will be called using this local variable a. Is this example clear?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now in this scenario, we are having three functions. One is show, one is greet, and one is sum. Are you able to see these functions?
Yes, sir.
Show,
Yes, sir.
greet, and sum. So which function we have called? Show. So inside show we have passed this greet. So this greet is a callback. So among these three functions, which function will be executed first?
Show.
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 First of all, control will be transferred inside the show. So show will receive which function as a callback?
Greet.
Great.
Yes. One second. Okay. So we are having this function show, which has been called. And when I have called this function, I have passed this greet, and this greet is being assigned to this variable a. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So when I am calling this A function, so which function will be executed?
A.
Some.
Great.
Great.
Yes, this greet will be executed and sum is being passed inside the argument.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so for this A function call, this greet will be executed and sum will be assigned to this ARG. And through this ARG, we are calling this sum function. Are you getting the sequence?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, means firstly greet will execute it, then sum will execute.
Exactly. First of all, show will be executed, then greet, then sum. Okay, now we are having one point that when we are having a function that needs to be passed in the argument only. So are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when we are having a function that needs to be passed in the argument, this means we are not about to call that function independently, just like this. Okay, so in JavaScript, we can have functions without the name, and we are going to refer those functions as anonymous function. So I'm having one function that is having requirement to be passed inside the show only. This is the only requirement of this function. Then it's not necessary to give that function name and to write that function name inside the show. Okay, you can definitely do that, but there is one more way to achieve this thing. So that way is just by writing your entire function inside your argument. Okay, and that function is having no name, so we are referring this function as an anonymous. So this anonymous function will be passed as an argument. This will be received by the argument A, and through this A we are calling this anonymous function. As simple as that. So now let's run this program. So you can see the result is hello world and good morning. Okay, so this is anonymous function for you.
Sir, but is anonymous function an efficient way to code?
Yes, this is a normal part of the JavaScript. You have to deal with the anonymous functions. This is a normal thing. And why we are using these anonymous functions, we are going to learn when we are exploring some concept like synchronous and asynchronous programming. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, as of now, just understand what is happening. Okay, what is happening? This is important to us. How we are going to make our code efficient, we will see it later, or you can go with the concept of data structures and algorithms then. Our main role is to just understand that how things are going to work. Then after it, we will focus on the efficiency. Yes. Okay. So in JavaScript, we can do one thing also, that instead of writing this anonymous function inside the argument, okay, you can also give a name. But instead of giving name, what I'm doing is just listen it carefully. I'm just showing you that what are the possible ways in which we can work with the functions. So one possible way is to define a normal function and pass its name inside the argument. So one way which I have told you, just have your anonymous function and pass that entire anonymous function in the argument. But one more way is there. You can assign this anonymous function into a variable. Let's say I have assigned this anonymous function into a variable. You can definitely do this. Okay, if you are having any anonymous function, you can assign that anonymous function into a variable, and you can pass your anonymous function like this. So again, the result is going to be the same. So you can see the result again is the same. Now it's your choice whether you want to assign that anonymous function into a variable, or you can pass that variable, or one option is what? Just define your anonymous function inside the function show. This means inside the argument of function show. You can do this thing. Let me copy this code into this notes file. So this is the basic, very basic example of any anonymous function. Okay, and still you can do one thing. If you are reading this code and you are finding it difficult to read, then you can also do one thing. Instead of passing this callback function, this anonymous function directly inside the argument, first of all write this anonymous function, assign it into a variable and pass that variable. Okay, so that you can read it more properly. Okay, so what I have done is similar to, I have a variable b, its value is 7, and I'm calling this function show, and inside this show I have passed this variable b. It's similar to that. Earlier what we are doing that, instead of assigning 7 into b and passing that b, I am passing directly value 7. Earlier it is similar to this, but this time I want to pass, if I want to pass 7 into the show, then I have assigned 7 into b and I have passed this variable b. Are you getting my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir.
So this is how things are going to work with this anonymous function.
So can we only assign anonymous function to variable?
Can you please repeat your question? Your voice is breaking.
Can we assign anonymous function to variable?
Yes, we have assigned anonymous function into a variable. What we have done here? We have done the same thing. We have assigned anonymous function into which variable? Into the fun variable.
But if our function have name, that time also we can assign it.
Just say, if suppose you are having a name, like if I have assigned this greet, so what will be the expected result? Just see this. So you can say, you can assign any function into a variable. This is a JavaScript normal thing. Okay, but if you are assigning any function into a variable, then there is no sense of giving a function its original name. Then just have it as anonymous, so that you can assign it into a variable of your choice. And if you want to refer that anonymous function, you can just refer to this variable, which is fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have copied this code or not? Yeah. Okay. So now let's understand few more technicalities for this callback function. Okay, so for this callback function, in order to create one anonymous function, what we are doing? So we are writing this function keyword, and we are just removing the function name, and the rest of the syntax remains the same. But in the latest version, or you can say since 2015 onwards, we are having one more way of defining the anonymous function. So let me write a point here. So one way of defining the anonymous function is by using function keyword. Okay, so this is the one way in which we can define our anonymous function, by using function keyword. So whenever you are defining any normal function, so you are writing the function name also, but in order to define any anonymous function, just remove the function name and you will get your anonymous function. Okay, so this is an older way to define an anonymous function, but JavaScript people has come up with the new syntax of defining the anonymous function. But JS people has come up with a new syntax. We can say a new syntax or an easier syntax. New syntax, or we can say easier syntax of defining the anonymous function. So what is that way of defining that anonymous function? So in any modern application, you are supposed to write the syntax for that new standard, okay, for that anonymous function. We are going to use that new syntax only, but it's not the uh, let's say it's not mandatory to follow this new convention. Okay, it is not the rule which is being decided that you have to follow that new syntax. As you all know that we are uh, definitely working with this old syntax, then this is going to work definitely. Okay, but if you want, you can also go with the new standard which is being introduced in order to define any anonymous function. Okay, so what was that new syntax or an easier syntax of defining an anonymous function? So instead of writing this function keyword, okay, so that new standard is you don't need to write that function keyword. So instead of writing the function keyword, you have to write these parentheses in order to maintain the arguments, or in order to have the function arguments. And after the argument, you have to put one arrow. And after the arrow, you have to write curly braces. So this is a new syntax of defining the anonymous function. What is the old syntax? You have to write function keyword, then arguments, and then function body. And this is a new syntax in which you don't have to write function keyword. So instead of function keyword, just open the parenthesis, put one arrow, and just write the function body. Okay, so this is only the syntactical difference between the old convention and the new convention. And this new convention is known as arrow function. Okay, you can also refer this as arrow function. So this above anonymous function, this above anonymous function is known as arrow function also. So in any modern application, as of now, you are going to see this convention. Okay, so but it's not the rule that you have to follow this convention. You can also go with this kind of anonymous function also. It's totally the choice of the developer. But yes, if I am talking about the convention or the recommendation, everyone is using this arrow function. They are not writing this function keyword in order to define an anonymous function. Let's see it practically. So I want to pass this anonymous function into the show. So right now we are achieving this by defining our anonymous function inside the argument. But I want to follow the new standard. So according to the new standard, we don't have to write function keyword. After the argument, you just have to write the you just have to write this arrow. First of all, write this equal and then greater than symbol. So it will make your function as an anonymous function. So this is a new standard. Now let's refresh it. So you can see result again is the same. So this is how in latest standard of JavaScript, we will define this anonymous function. So all of you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can also assign this arrow function into a variable. Since we can assign any anonymous function into a variable, okay, since we can assign any anonymous function into a variable, so we can also assign this arrow function into a variable. Let's say I'm assigning this into the variable fun, and I'm passing the reference of this fun. Okay, so you can see again the result is same. Now let's do one thing. Uh, I want to define one anonymous function to add two numbers. Okay. I want to define one anonymous function that will add two integer numbers, or you can say that will add two numbers. So I'm defining one anonymous function, and that anonymous function will be receiving arguments like a comma b, and I'm not giving any name because I want this function to be an anonymous function, and I'm assigning this into a variable sum. And we can directly console log, or you can return any value if you want. Let's say I'm returning the value as return a plus b. And if you want to call this anonymous function, you can call it like this, sum, and then you can pass your arguments. And this anonymous function is going to return a sum of a and b, and let's assign it into a variable. Let's say I'm assigning this into a result variable, and let's log the value of result on the console. Okay, so now let's see the result. So you can see the result on your screen is 10. Okay, but what if we want to achieve the same thing with the help of arrow function? So instead of writing this function keyword, after the parenthesis, just write arrow, and you have your job done. Okay, so you can see again the result is same. But we will get one benefit of using this new standard. I'm going to tell you that benefit. So is this example clear to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now what we are actually doing, so just see it carefully. We are having one anonymous function. So this is our anonymous function. And inside this anonymous function, how many statements we are having?
One.
One.
Yes. We are having only a one statement, only a single statement, and that too is a return statement. Yes or no?
Yes.
So this anonymous function is having only a single statement, and that statement is a return. So this means this function is simply returning a value. So if you are having a function, let me write one point. If we are having a function with one statement, and that too is returning a value. Are you understanding my point?
One statement returning value.
Yes, we are
Yes,
having
sir.
only one statement inside a function, and that too is just simply returning a value. Then we are having one easier way to achieve this. Okay, then we can achieve this task more easily. How we are going to make this task more easy? Using this arrow function. Okay, so this is a new convention. So this is the benefit of using this arrow function. Whenever you are having a function that is returning any value and nothing inside that function is going to be executed, so you don't need to write this return keyword, and also you don't need to write these curly braces. So you can directly assign your expression, so you can directly assign your expression like this. Okay, so whatever be the value being calculated from this expression will be automatically returned by this function. Just try to understand the syntax. Earlier we are opening the body, so this means we may write some other statements also other than return. So we are just simply returning the value of a plus b. So whenever you are having such kind of function who is returning any value, and that function is having a single statement only. So for that purpose, you can directly write your expression. There is no need to write curly braces. There is no need to write return statement. Yes, exactly. It is like the lambda expression. Okay, so have you guys seen that lambda expression?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
In order to provide
we
interface definition, right?
were thinking of the same this whole time.
These are the same concepts which every programming language has introduced. We are having the same concept in Python programming also, and the name given to that concept is same, the lambda function or lambda expression. But in JavaScript, we are naming it as arrow function. Okay, so now again, a result is going to be the same. Okay, so you can say result is again 10. So I must write this in your notes file. Okay, so all of you understood this? Yes or no? All of you got it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so now let's have one function. I want to define a function that will take a single argument and that will return a value. Let me write that task for you. So just create a function that takes a number as argument, and return a value by adding 2 into it. Okay, so this is our task. We have to create a function that takes a number as argument and we have to return a value by adding 2 into it. So for example, I have this function which is just adding 2 into it. So I have taken an argument and what we will return a plus 2. All of you got this?
So please explain again.
Read the question. What you got? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now this is the solution. Is it clear? We are taking that argument and we are just adding 2 into it and we are just returning it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
It
sir.
is-
Yes, sir.
It is just like compound, that compound
अरे
operator.
बाबा इधर देखो तुम. We are having one argument. Yes, and inside that function, I'm just returning a plus 2. What fancy in that? Are you people able to get this function? What this function is doing actually?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm having an idea about you people that you are not aware
sir.
of the functions. You are not aware of methods and all. So we are having this function. So all of you got this. What actually this function is doing for us?
Yes.
Can you please explain what this function is doing?
Add 2 into A.
Yes,
Add
this
2 to
function is
the
simply adding 2 into our argument and it is returning that
Returning
value.
back to the yes. Updating its value, you can say.
Yes. So we are having one easy way of doing this. like where sum is equal to, let's have one arrow function, and if you want to return any value, do we need to write curly braces and inside it we have to write return?
No.
No.
No. So instead of writing these all the things, just write your expression whose value you want to return. So, but we have to take an argument and we have to add 2 into that argument and return the new value. So I have passed this 4, and what value this function will return?
6.
6.
This function will return 6, and that 6 will be assigned to result. Okay, so you can see the result is 6. But just see this function carefully. How many arguments we are having in this arrow function?
One.
Only one, only a single
one.
argument. So whenever in any arrow function, if you are having only a single argument, then you can omit these parentheses also.
Going further, shorter.
If your arrow function is going to have a single argument, then you can definitely opt out the parenthesis. Now result is only going to be the same. So the result is 6. But you can write this syntax in a very much easier way. Let me copy this code. So all of you understood this arrow function?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is how this concept of callback functions and this arrow functions are going to work. And but still, why we are having these callback functions, we will see it later on. As of now, we have just understood the mechanism and the working of these callback functions. Okay, so now there comes one more concept. Now suppose from any function, let's say I'm having any normal function, okay, any concrete function I'm having, and I'm naming that function as show. And inside that function, I'm having one console log message that is inside show. I have just displayed this value inside show. And after this console log message, I am returning a value that is 7. So is my function show is returning some value or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
This
sir.
function is returning some
7.
value. And what is this? Is it a function reference or is it a function call?
Function call.
Call. And whenever function is called, we will get the return value. Yes or no?
Yes,
We
sir.
can assign that return value into the variable x. And now if I'm logging the value of x on the console, so what will be the result?
Inside show. Inside show 7.
After that, 7.
First of all, it will print inside show. Then after printing, it
7.
will return 7. 7 will be assigned to x, and this x will be printed. So you can see, first of all, it has displayed inside show, and after this, it has displayed 7. All of you understood this? What is happening over here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now suppose if I'm returning a string, what will happen?
Inside show and hello.
Inside show and hello.
When it will assign hello.
Inside show.
Yes. So the value of x will be hello. But can we return a function from a function?
Right.
Is it possible to return a function from a function?
Yes, it is possible.
Yes.
Definitely possible. अब तुम लोगों का ना दिमाग बन जाएगा पूरा. This is JavaScript. You can return a function from a function. So this means we can define a function inside a function. Okay. So this simply means that if you are having any function, so you can define a function inside a function. So I'm defining new function that is, for example, greet. Okay, so you can see that I have one function that is greet, which is defined inside the show. And inside this greet function, I'm writing one console log message that is inside greet function. Now, what will be the output? Now, our function is not returning anything, so we are not supposed to assign the return value. I have simply called this show function. Now, what will happen?
Only inside show will print.
Only inside show.
Only inside.
Only inside show.
We
Both
can see
prints.
we are having only inside show because we have only defined this function. We have not called this. Okay. So since we are returning a number and we are returning a string value, so as of now, what I'm returning?
Whole function.
Yes, I'm returning a entire function from my show function. Now just try to answer if I am assigning the return value into the x. Now what is the value of x?
That
Function
complete
inside
definition.
the grade function. Inside show.
Inside show and complete function.
I'm just asking about not the result. I'm just asking about the value of x.
Function grade.
Grade.
Yes,
Complete function.
Line number 15.
exactly. So you can see the value of x is the greet function. So in JavaScript, you can define a function inside that function. और ये x की value क्या है? पूरा ये call back. This means this is not a callback. So this function will be returned as it is, and this will be assigned into the variable x. So this is the real JavaScript. And when we are defining a function inside a function, okay, when we are defining a function inside a function, we are going to refer that concept as a closure. Okay, so this is the name given to this mechanism. So let me write a point. In JavaScript, we can define a function, or we can say that, or we can return a function from a function. Okay, or let me write two separate points. In JS, we can define a function inside a function, or we can return a function from a function. Then this is known as closures. Okay, so this is the concept of closure, that we can define a function inside that function. Now, if x is becoming a function, then can we call it like this?
Yes, we can call.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can definitely call this. So x की value क्या है?
Inside grade function.
Great.
X
Great
की
है.
value क्या है?
X great है.
Great.
Great function. Great function.
Great.
Exactly. आपको ये मत बोलना x जान थी मेरी.
जान लेवा थी.
Okay, so you can see x was a function, and we have called that function with the help of that x value. Okay. Okay, so we can also do such kind of things. Okay, so this is the concept which I'm referring as closures. Okay, so now we are very much familiar with the concept of callbacks and the closures. So now we can explore some more concepts in the JavaScript which are being dependent on these callbacks and the closures concept. Okay. So now let's move on to our next concept. I will keep this file as it is. Let's have a new HTML file. So our new concept is the DOM manipulation, DOM. Okay, we are going to explore this concept, DOM. Let's have one basic structure of the HTML document, and inside this, I will have the script tag. Okay. So I'm not writing any points for the DOM inside this notes.txt. I will create a separate file for that. Sorry. Okay, so let's create a file. And I'm naming that file. Sorry, dom.txt. Okay, so first of all, we have to understand that what is DOM. Just a minute. Okay, so first of all, this DOM is again very much important concept as far as JavaScript is considered. If you are saying that you are JavaScript developer, and if you are not aware about this DOM concept, then you are not a right person to be hired. Okay, so this is very important concept related to the JavaScript and related to your entire web development as far as front end is considered. Okay, so this DOM has nothing to do with the server side. So this DOM is the exclusive concept for the front end only. Okay, because whenever you are building any front end of the application, any UI, you have to deal with this DOM. And intentionally or unintentionally, indirectly or directly, as of now, we have some operations, we have performed some operations that are being performed on the DOM. Okay, but we don't know something about DOM. Okay, so it's the time to explore some concepts about the DOM. So basically this DOM is an abbreviation of this document object model. So what exactly this document object model? So earlier we have seen one object, that is document. Have you guys seen this object document?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So this document object is representing which thing?
Web page.
Web page.
Web page.
This is representing the web page. So in JavaScript, everything is an object. So your entire web page is an object. So this means if you want to perform any operation on your web page through the JavaScript, then you are going to use this document object. Okay. And but what exactly the document object model is? So we already know that document is an object. So there is going to be some model for it. Model means what? In real life, model means what? Just don't say that in Bollywood we are having model.
Sample.
Yes. Model means a structure of anything, or we can say a clear representation of an idea. Okay, so that is going to be a model. Okay,
Gaurav.
I know you people are thinking of that.
Yes.
So basically, this model thing is a structure or representation of anything. So whenever you are building any web application, so you are writing some HTML tags. Okay, you will write some HTML tags in your HTML file in order to display some content on your front end. So there may be a case where suppose you are using some h1 tags, paragraph tags, div tags. There are lots of tags which we can use in HTML. But whenever your HTML file gets loaded into the browser, first of all, your browser is going to form a model for your page. Let me write a point here. When any web page gets loaded, when any web page gets loaded into the browser memory, first of all, browser is going to prepare a model. So what kind of model our browser is going to define in that memory? So that model will contain the hierarchy of the HTML tags. So that model will be a tree structure. That model will be a tree structure that represents the hierarchy. Okay, that represents the hierarchy of the tags. Let me show you by one example that what exactly our browser is going to do. First of all, we have to understand this point theoretically. When any web page gets loaded into the browser memory, our browser is going to prepare a model for it. And that model will look like a tree structure, and that tree structure will contain the hierarchy of the tags. So this means we are having one tree structure will with some nodes like first of all there will be HTML element, and HTML will have two child elements, that is one head and one body. Let me show you with the help of a diagram. Okay, so at first, which element will be there at the top? That is HTML element. So in that tree structure, first of all, HTML element would be there. And this HTML element is having two child elements. This means two child tags. One is head and one is body. Then this tree structure is going to have two child nodes. So one child node will be for a head. Okay. So one child element will be head and one child element will be the body. So one child element is head and one child element is the body. And again, there may be a case where head is going to have a few more child elements, like one is meta and one is title. So this kind of tree structure will be prepared by your browser. Let me write this as HTML element is having two child nodes. One is head and one is the body. And again, this head is going to have two child elements. This means a head will be having two child nodes. One is meta and one is the title. And suppose if you are having CSS written in your web page, then also one child will be increased. One is head, one is title, one is style. So in the head, we are having this meta, and the one child node will be the title. So these are the two child elements. Okay, so now, as of now, our body is having one script tag, and let's say we are having this div, and inside this div, I'm having one h1 and I'm having one paragraph element. So what will be the tree structure for it? So inside this body, tag, what are the child elements we are having? So one is the div at the same level and one is the script. So one child node will be there. I'm just creating it by myself. for the div, and one child element will be there for the script. Okay, I'm writing D for the division, and I'm writing S for the script. Okay, and this D is again having this D, this means this division is again having two child nodes. One is H1 and one is P. So one element will be the H1, which is the child of this division. One is H1, and one will be the paragraph. So this kind of tree structure will be prepared by your browser. And by reading this tree structure, your browser is going to decide that which elements, that which element is the parent and which element is going to be the child. Okay, by reading this tree structure, your browser is going to have a complete idea about your entire HTML document. And the same tree structure is referred as the document object model. Okay, so this is the model which is being prepared by your browser. And what actually that document object is referring to? So this document object is referring to this entire DOM. This means I have told you that document is representing your entire web page. So we have seen that indirectly the document object is pointing to your web page, but technically what exactly this document object is referring to? So this document object will refer to this entire document object model which is being prepared by your browser. Okay, so this document object in any JavaScript logic will represent the DOM. Okay, will represent the document object model. This means this document object is going to represent that tree structure of your entire web page. Is it clear to all of you? Yes or no?
Yeah, S stands for in that tree diagram.
Script.
Sorry, sir.
You are asking about this S?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Script. This is
sir. Suppose in the division section, we are having span. So will that be added as well? Like if we are having a span in our code?
Yes. If
Okay,
you are having any HTML element, then it will go into that tree structure.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So
Inside body, all are tree structures.
Yes, what?
Inside body, all are tree structures.
Inside, not only inside the body. Every HTML component or every HTML element will be there inside the tree structure. You can see HTML is also there, head is also there, meta, title is also there. This is not meant for only the body. This is related to entire web page. Okay.
Sir, there will be only one script, or can we make multiple script?
Can we make multiple?
Script?
Yes. Yes. You can write multiple script tags. This is definitely okay. You can go with this. Okay. So as of now, we have understood that what exactly is the meaning of that document object model. So whenever any web page gets loaded into the browser memory, so that for that web page, your browser is going to prepare a model that contains a tree structure, and that model, I would like to write a point here. So that model is called the document object model. And what actually your document object is referring to, whenever you are writing any JavaScript logic, and if you are getting this document object, so this document object will represent which thing?
Entire document object
Entire
of that
DOM.
web page.
Yes, this document object will represent your entire DOM. And using that document object, you can make any changes onto your DOM. So what changes we can make into our DOM? Can you just guess that kind of thing?
Changes means you can have multiple childs like division and script and like that.
Okay, there may be a case. Anyone else?
We can read, write.
Exactly.
Read, write, any operation perform document.
Yes. So you can perform any changes or any operation on your DOM. For example, if we are having this H1 in our DOM, so we can remove this H1 from this document object model. So if you are removing any element from the DOM, this element will also be removed from the browser. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, if you want to add some elements in the DOM, then you can also do this with the help of the document object. So this means once your document object model has been prepared by your browser, then after it you can make any changes to your DOM, to your document object model. Let me write one point. So first of all, this means DOM is not the constant thing. This means once the DOM has been prepared by your browser, we can still change or make some customization on our DOM. Okay, so DOM is not the constant thing. So after the DOM has been created, once we can change or we can manipulate the DOM. So what actually I'm trying to say when I'm saying that we can manipulate the DOM. So when your web page is being loaded into the browser memory, DOM has been prepared and you are able to see the output of that web page. So now using your JavaScript code, using your JavaScript logic, you can make any changes to that DOM. So what are the all changes we can make? I think someone has a mic on. Please turn off your mic. Okay. So what changes we can make onto the DOM? So we can add new HTML element. We can add the new HTML element, or you can say tag with the help of DOM. So what this means, when your web page is being displayed on the browser, okay, we are not changing the source code in order to add a new HTML tag. Just don't get confused with this thing. Okay, I'm not saying that we will change our source code for HTML and we will add a new tag. No, we have to add a new element in the DOM with the help of JavaScript logic. Suppose you are having one button, okay, and when a user is hitting that button, we have to introduce a new HTML element in our web page. So that we can make with the help of JavaScript. So this means once your DOM has been prepared by your browser, you can still manipulate the DOM. So what are the operations? So first operation is we can add new HTML element into the DOM. So if we are adding new element into the DOM, then this means what? We are displaying new HTML element onto our web page. Yes or no?
Yes.
Exactly.
That means the DOM is dynamic and it keeps on updating as we make.
Exactly. That's the point of DOM. You are making changes to your web page dynamically. If suppose at initial load, you are having one image which is being displayed, and there is one button which is given below it to hide that image. When you click that button, image will be What image will be what?
Hidden.
Removed from the DOM.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
It's entering into some other logic, right?
Right. So we have to perform these all manipulations with the help of a JavaScript logic. Okay, so if we can add a new element inside the DOM, then this means we can also remove the elements. We can remove the elements, or you can say we can remove the tags from the DOM. If you are removing any element from the DOM, then from your web page also that element will be removed. Is it clear?
Sir, can we say one HTML element represent one model?
No, the model will be prepared for entire HTML document. So for that model, your HTML element is just a child node.
Okay. So one document will contain multiple models.
One document means what? One HTML document.
Object of that document will contain multiple models.
No, that entire model will refer for any. Let me write a point for you so that you can understand it better. For one web page, how many DOM will be created?
One.
Exactly. For one web page, only one DOM will be there. So for a single web page, only one DOM will be there. And this document object will refer to that single DOM. And if you want to make any changes into the DOM, you will need this document object. Okay. If you want to refer to any child element inside your DOM, if you want to access any child node from your DOM, then you can also refer it by using this document object. So this document is referring to that single DOM. Is it clear?
The meaning of DOM is hidden in entire only. Entire document object model.
Exactly. Okay, so these are the few operations. We can add new element, or you can remove the element dynamically, not by changing the source code. Just don't get it like that. If you are having one H1 element and if you're removing this, then this is DOM manipulation. No, this is not DOM manipulation. So DOM manipulation will be when you are having one button, or suppose on any event, the H1 will be removed dynamically. Then we will see that this will be the part of DOM manipulation. Are you getting it?
Sir, can I ask one question if everyone
Yes.
permits?
Yes, yes.
Sir, can you show that the tree structure, please?
Yes.
Sir, this tree structure is nothing but whatever we return under that HTML in
Yes.
HTML. So when we add any elements in the HTML using document tag, then resource code also get updated, na, sir, in background.
Yes.
For that HTML.
Yes, definitely.
So with the help of
Code file
JavaScript,
will also be updated.
yes. So with the help of JavaScript, we can add any elements in that HTML.
Exactly. You can add any element, any. You can also add form. You can also add images. You can also add video. Whatever be the element you want to add.
Yes, sir, that's my question. That source code get updated automatically.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you all.
So what are the next operations that we can perform with the help of DOM? We can change the style of elements. Okay, so as of now, you are familiar with CSS. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So to apply style, we will use CSS. But you can also write some styling code in JavaScript also, because behind the scene, it's only the JavaScript which is handling all the things for you. So using DOM manipulation, you can change the style of elements. For example, if initially your web page is having a blue background color, so upon any user operation and upon any event, you can change the background color of your web page by using the JavaScript. Okay, So JavaScript, so by using JavaScript, we can also change the style of elements, because that style will also be a child of this DOM structure. So you can also change the style using the JavaScript. So is this point clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So using this DOM manipulation, we can read the content of HTML elements. Suppose you are having one H1 element, and that H1 element is containing some text. So you can read that text which is written inside that H1. Let's say this, we are having this paragraph, and this paragraph tag is containing lots of words, lots of string values inside, written inside it. So you can read this entire paragraph in your DOM manipulation logic. Okay, and also if you are having any form, that form may contain some input fields, and you can also read the values of those fields. Okay, so now if you want to make form validation also, then this is going to be a part of the DOM. Okay, so using DOM manipulation, you can read the content of HTML elements. So is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let's move on to next. If you can read the content of HTML element, then we can also change the content of HTML elements. Okay, we can change the contents of HTML elements. Okay, let's say if any H1 tag, for example, if you are having this H1 tag, and initially hello world will be displayed on it. And now if you are having a button, and whenever user hits that button, you can change the content of that H1, or you can change the content of that paragraph element. Okay, so this means using DOM, you can change the content of HTML element. And also we can read the values of attributes. What exactly this point number 6 is representing? We can read the values of attributes. Means what?
From the text menu, we can read that. If someone is entering like username, password, we can read that like that.
So what is attribute for HTML element?
Properties for the tags.
Exactly.
Property.
Like if you are having IMG tag, then what will be the possible attributes?
SRC.
Correctly. So in
SRC.
your JavaScript code, you can read the value of SRC, you can read the value of width, you can read the value of height. If you are having one anchor tag, you can read the value of href. So this is what I actually mean. So we can read the value of attributes of HTML tag or HTML element. Now, if you can read the value, you can also change it. So we can change the attributes value. So what I actually mean, suppose as of now, there is one image SRC you are having. Okay, so there is some value which will be written in IMG SRC attribute. So using JavaScript, you can change that SRC. Okay, if you are having any anchor tag, so we will be having one href attribute, and using JavaScript, you can change the value of href. Okay, so that's what I actually mean by writing this point. That this means we can change the attribute values using JavaScript. Okay, so these are all the possible operations which we can perform in the DOM manipulation. So these all the operations are being performed dynamically with the help of JavaScript. Okay, what I don't mean is, what I actually trying to say, that if you are making any changes into your HTML file, let's say if I'm removing this H1 tag, is it a part of DOM manipulation?
No, sir. No,
No, sir.
changes will get
No.
effect on the your
Exactly. If
page.
you are removing directly from your source code, if you are reloading your browser, then there is no DOM manipulation. Your DOM is getting reloaded again.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So manipulation means you are having any existing DOM and you are making any changes dynamically. So how we are going to make changes, all of these operations, we are going to see it in next session. So as of now, we are done with this class. Hopefully, you guys are able to understand that function, callback functions, and all these things. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just give it time. Take your time and explore some more online websites just to read some more concepts about the callback functions and closures concept. Okay, you have to give time to understand these all the concepts. Okay. Okay, so that's from my side for this session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
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 Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Nan.
Thank you, Nayan. See you later.
Thank you, Nanesh.
Thank you, Sudarshan. जा आता जेव्हा
लिफ्ट
Hello.
करायचं का रे? लिफ्ट करायचं? त्याची लिफ्ट करणे का?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
अरे चैतन्य
Hello, ma'am.
चैतन्य भारी दिसतोय.
Hello, ma'am.
मॉडेल मॉडेल
कौन मैम है हमारे?
गौरव भाई.
Surya, ma'am.
हाँ,
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, please give less assignment today.
Why? Why so?
We have to explore.
Ma'am, please give less assignment today. The today's topic is gone bouncer, so we need some time for self study.
Okay.
Ma'am.
You're correct.
To explore. And summary, and can you please give summary?
Yes,
for
ma'am.
this topic
Summary will be appreciated, please.
from
Yes,
your
ma'am,
side.
please. Yes, ma'am.
See, first of all, you have to tell the summary. If there is something missing, I will, some faculty will explain. Okay.
No,
First of
ma'am.
all,
Your summary is summary. Other people's summary is not that summary.
Only
That
you,
we
ma'am.
need.
Yes, yes.
No,
No,
your
no.
your summary, your brain processes really nicely. Other one summary that it takes time, ma'am. That's why, and that
Okay, that we can
some
discuss during
misconceptions
that.
happen then. That's why.
Okay, we can do something during that time. Okay. Okay, so anyway, prepare for the summary.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
all of you prepare for the summary. Okay. Okay. Now we can meet at 1:30.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Akshay.